Welcome to the Slack Best Practices webinar. My name is Jonathan Beavis, and accompanying me today are my two colleagues, Denise Pikes and Jennifer Fabrini, and they will be monitoring the chat box. So all I ask is the folks who are tuned in right now to remain on mute throughout the webinar. And if you do have any questions or comments, to please direct them to the chat box. Next slide, please. Next slide. And next slide. We can go, there we go. All right, so first and foremost, for those of you who are new to Slack, welcome. We do hope that today's webinar will help you all better navigate Slack, just so that you feel more comfortable posting information, that you know where to go to access resources, and where to go to answer and ask questions on the platform. We can go to the next slide. All right, so before we actually get into the Slack demo and show you guys how everything is organized on the platform, we thought it would be useful to address some of the frequently asked questions that we encounter with new users on Slack. The most common being, where should I post information? That's a great question, and the simple response to that is that the information is posted in at least one of our 5 different Slack channels. Those Slack channels being the resources channel, the provider questions channel, the COVID-19 response channel, and the announcements and webinar summaries channel. Okay. It's also important to just keep in mind that each of these channels have a different focus and contain different information. For example, if you're asking yourself what goes in the resource channel, well, if you do have a resource that you've come across and it's related to COVID-19 that you think should be shared with the community, please post them to the resources channel. And if you have a question, we do have a provider questions channel that we hope encourages a rapid sharing of questions and answers. So not only do we encourage folks to post questions to this channel, we also encourage that the community help answer these questions that folks have posted. So if you're asking yourself, should I answer a question on the provider questions channel? The simple answer would be yes. You should absolutely respond to questions that you have the answers to. Next, we have the COVID-19 response channel that members should use to post general information or topics related to COVID-19 that you believe is appropriate. So all we ask there is that you use your best judgment before posting content you found online. Now, the last 2 channels are the announcements and webinar summaries channels. And while you will have access to these channels to view the information on them, we ask that you do not post directly to these channels. Some of the reasons for that is that the information we're looking for is very specific, and we just want to avoid any unnecessary posts. For example, the announcements channel will only include motions, orders, and policy changes on a federal, state, and local level. And the webinar summaries channel contains recordings and summaries of webinars conducted by All Chicago staff, as well as other summaries by All Chicago staff who viewed webinars hosted by other agencies. Now, the last question, how often are these areas monitored? Denise and I are on Slack throughout the day, among other staff at All Chicago. So if you do have a question, you can expect a response that day, but I can't promise you that we'll always have an immediate answer for you. So again, that's why we encourage the community to be active on the platform and to answer any question that they can. Now, before we get onto the actual Slack platform, does anyone have any questions? Sure. Denise, we can go right onto Slack. Awesome. So we could start by going to the announcements page. So for the folks who have actually logged into their Slack account, this is what the general interface looks like. On the left-hand side is where all the channel headers will be held, all of which begin with a hashtag. So whichever channel you're in, the most recent information is always going to be towards the bottom of the page. Now, if you want to scroll to the top, now if you're in a channel and you just need further clarity or just a reminder of what kind of information is held on these channels, there will be a description at the very top of the page underneath the name of the header, of the channel rather. So there it is, right? So we have hashtag announcements, and then you'll have the general description. So this channel communicates motions, orders, and policy changes on a federal, state, and local level. And just to reiterate, the announcements channel is only all Chicago staff who could post on it. But again, you could still access this page for information. Now, the next channel I wanted to address is the provider questions channel. So, of course, we encourage everyone to hop on this page, post your questions, and absolutely encourage folks coming on here to answer the community's questions. But what we also have on here is an FAQ that we hold, if you want to scroll up a little bit, Denise, that we post on here that's updated periodically. We are almost done with the most updated version of this. So once that's out, I highly recommend folks to jump on and look at it. This document is invaluable. There's a ton of information on there, essentially since the start of the whole COVID-19 crisis. And even question one, if you wanted to share the information with someone who's not on Slack, there's Slack questions, question and answer on here, as well as dozens of other things that are very useful right now. So we could exit out of here. Next, what I'd like to look at is the resources channel. So while we, of course, promote folks posting resources on here, this thread does tend to get very busy. So what we've decided to do is we'll allow new posts to stay for a few days, a couple of days, at which point we will move them to our centralized resource document, which is just here. It says COVID resources. By doing this, we're cleaning up the thread. So if folks are jumping on and they're looking for old material, you could be rest assured that it's going to be on here, and that your information that you've posted in the past isn't gone. We've just moved it to this document. So if folks haven't had this or seen this, we will be sharing this in the chat at the end of the webinar. All right. And then we can look at the webinar summaries channel, please. So here will be all the webinars from the week. We try to get them out within a 48-hour period after viewing or conducting a webinar. But what Denise also will do is post the weekly schedule of webinars. So that's generally pretty useful. The register links are all there for providers or folks in the community that want to see what's going on that week. And then the last one that we have, and then again, of course, we encourage folks not to post on the webinar summaries page. This is for all Chicago staff, but of course for you guys to use for whatever information that you need. And then we could just go to the COVID-19 response channel. Now this is an open forum. Whatever you guys think is relative in the current moment, or if you have any updates that you'd like to share with the community, please post to this page. But of course, please be mindful of what you're posting. We're not generally sifting through here and making sure the content is legit, although we do have eyes on it. We can't catch everything, so please just post appropriately. Now, I think the last thing we'll touch base on is just general messaging. So at the bottom of each channel, you're going to see a message box. And what you could do is post obviously comments or upload files. By uploading a file, you'll just add an attachment over in the bottom right-hand corner of the message box. Another thing you could do if you wanted to grab someone's specific attention, you could use the @ sign and just start typing their name. Or if you wanted to address the whole channel, you could do @ and then enter the name of the channel that you're posting in. So for example, if you typed in my name, yeah, so that works. Great, thank you, Denise. Before we go any further, do we have any questions? Again, if folks do have questions, please just post them in the chat box. How do I get this page on Slack?
Jonathan, we do have one question. So someone asked, how do we get to this page on Slack?
So the COVID-19 response channel, or to get on the Slack page in general?
Maybe you could explain both.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll add the link in general. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll send the link to join Slack in the chat box. If Denise or Jennifer have that, if they could please just add that there. And then once you're logged on, all the channels are just going to be on the left-hand side in this purple column under the header that says channels. Thank you, Jennifer. All right. And then, folks, so everything on here, these channels are going to be available to be viewed by everyone who's on our Slack channel. So if you want to send me something or send Denise something, there is direct messaging on the left-hand side. If you scroll all the way down on the purple column, you could send me a direct message or anyone else in our forum a direct message if that's a preferred means of communication. I don't have anything else for this. Awesome. So eventually we will have these slides posted online. So if you guys want to come back on, we will have the slide deck. This is just some images of the interface. So instead of having the recording of the demo, it's just some highlighted pieces that brings you back to exactly what we just touched on. And then here's just a review of our 5 channels and the content that we'd like to hold in each channel, with then just the underlying ability of who can post and who shouldn't post in these channels. And then the last thing, which I'll let Denise add in the chat box, is the new user guide, Slack guide, as well as a Slack flyer that explains how to join and how information is organized within the Slack. So for folks who are looking to customize their pages, the Slack guide for new users is going to be very beneficial to you. It'll show you how to set your preferences just exactly the way you'd like them to be set up. something we didn't cover today. Yeah, so if folks have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now. We could also go back and recover some material.
Jonathan, while we're waiting for some questions, I do have a question. Could you explain a little bit what it means to pin something in Slack?
Yes, so if you pin something, it's going to highlight it and bring it as an important, whether it's a post or a file, to that page. So once you log on, it should be one of the first things you see. Pinning it will also save it in, she's pulling it up now. It'll essentially store it in a file for you, so whenever you come back to this page, whatever you've pinned will just be held as an important folder for you to view at a later date.
And can anyone pin something, or only Alt Chicago?
It's a good question. Denise, do you have an answer to that?
Yeah, anyone is welcome to pin anything. All you have to do is, at your posts, at More Actions, just pin to channel, and that immediately will highlight it at the top. So if you didn't want to go scroll through the whole chat, you can just go up to the very top next to, it tells you the view member list, and then you'll see these pinned items of just kind of important things to scroll through if you just want to get the gist of things.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, we're happy to answer them now. If not, Denise and my email is at the bottom of the slide here if you just want to reach out to us at a later date. All right. I think that'll be it for today then. All right, so thank you all for coming. These will be posted on the Slack website in the next couple of days. If you guys wanted to recap what we